me ask you a question. What is a great drum sound that stands the test of time? Tell me if you've ever had this thought before. You go back to something that you've worked on in the past, and before you listen to it, you think, well, it's probably not as good as something that I could do now, because, I mean, I've come so far. I've got all this cool new gear, I've got so much more experience, not to mention my great new plugins that I have. I made this drum sample and loop pack a couple of years ago to solve some needs that I had as a mix engineer and a producer. I'm wondering if these drum samples from the Studio Kit are still any good. Call me crazy, but I actually get caught up in this way of thinking quite often. It's like, are these things like still relevant? So I figured what we would do is we would test these drum samples in the context of a mix. Now, here's something about sample packs that's worth noting. A lot of sample packs are designed to fulfill some sort of niche or hyper-specific need, and there's probably a bunch of reasons behind that. I think the user tends to sort of associate the song they're working with, like, this is a 80s pop sounding thing, I need an 80s pop sounding snare, or this is a rock thing, I need a rock sounding snare. And I think it's nice that we have libraries that do this, but when I designed this pack, my thought was more like, I need a big, deep, fat, slightly dead, dampened option and less dampened option version of this snare sound, because to me, I think this snare sound can work on a lot of different styles of music. Maybe that's just my way of thinking of what I want to reach for if I'm reaching for a drum sample. I'd love to hear how you do it. Let me know down in the comments. Hence, the Studio Kit drum sample pack was born. I spent 3+ months literally just tweaking sounds and adjusting how I was going to actually capture these things. So hopefully they still stand up. And since the goal of this kit and this pack is to sort of serve the needs of different styles of music as drum samples in the mixing context, today we're gonna try it on a rock song. All right, so here's a session that I did here in my studio very recently. This is a 3-piece rock band called The Skeleton Crew. These are some of Nashville's top session players, and they all play together and write their own tunes. I was very grateful to have them here in the studio to be able to record them. Let's take a listen to a little bit of this. By the way, this was recorded live all at the same time with no click track. So we had drums in the drum room, guitar and bass in the control room with me, all of them playing at the same time. Two solos in this song. You hear that aggressive tone? Okay, so there's very clearly like a sound to this and an emotion to this. I mean, listen to this, just this. Obviously the guitar is rocking, but listen to this bass part here. So first off, this is kind of how I do it. I've got my drum track template here. The blue tracks are the audio tracks. These gray tracks are submixes. Essentially, we've got the 2 kick tracks going to 1, 2 snares going to 1, and then all the drums going to a drum bus and a couple parallels, a little reverb thing, and then I keep 2 auxiliary tracks in the template for samples if it calls for it or if it helps the drums in the context of the song at all. Having the sample tracks set up in the drum template just makes the workflow a lot faster. And I'd like to say, ideally, the drums and everything is recorded so well that there doesn't need to be any supplementary
samples, but this is really a genre dependent and production question because a lot of genres of music are very sample intensive. This is going to be your judgment to make as the mixer, and I would communicate with the producer, and obviously if you're producing it, then have at it. All right, now in this situation, the recording is pretty great. I'm very, very happy with what we got, but let's just see if we can add any impact to the performance by throwing in some samples. So let's start by adding in the kick drum. So I'm going to open up Trigger. We're going to go ahead and grab our Andrew Masters Studio Kit. Now, there's a few different ways to go about grabbing samples from a pack, and it really depends on the pack. Some packs have presets, like this pack has presets for different programs you may be using or samplers. It's got trigger presets, which means you can literally just double click on a Studio Kick. It's going to load up some preset mix, or you can go in and grab the individual mics on that preset. Or you actually have the WAV files folder here, which that's my personal favorite to do, is to go to the individual kick drum microphone. So let's just go ahead and stick with this Velocity 5 Studio Kick out. Again, this is just the microphone soloed, you know, WAV file, no presets here. So this is just raw. I've got a face flip on it. I'm not gonna mess with anything. That's cool. It's big. It's big. It's kind of pillowy. Not too much click on this. All right, so let's start at the first verse, and we're going to mute and unmute the kick drum sample. Here we go. It's muted. And unmute. Oh, God, yeah. Now, what's cool about this particular sample that's on here is it is that out mic, so we're getting a lot of the air from the kick drum and a lot of the sub frequencies. Love it. Let's jump over to the snare drum. Same thing. What do we got here? Trigger. This is, let's unmute this. Ooh. This is Velocity 8 Studio Snare Brass Top Mic Dampen. So this is just the snare top mic on the dampened sample. So same thing, I'm going to mute the snare drum sample, playback same spot. In. Oh. Oh, that's nice. It's very loud. Let's see what our level is here. It's at 0, but we're going to just pull it back a little bit. All right, same thing. Here we go. Wow, it adds a lot of, actually adds a lot of presence and resonance. Without it. Whoa. With it. Oh, yeah. All right, for fun, let's do both. I'm going to mute and unmute both kick samples at the same time. So this is without them. With them. Without. Oh my God, yeah. And what's really nice is this is not like a far off change from what we wanted for this. Like these are actually very similar sounds, which I'm obviously like, I love these sounds. This is to me is like the ultimate recording studio drum sound. So that's the first verse where they're kind of laid back. Let's jump to the end and hear it when things get aggressive. We'll start again with the samples muted, and then we will add them. Sounds great. Let's add them in. Oh my God. Man. Yeah, I mean, obviously it just intensifies what's already happening. It's such an intense and aggressive and awesome performance of these dudes just rocking, and I feel like it just fills it up more and makes it a little more articulate. But again, what's great is it's not changing the feel or the vibe. It's not trying to make it something different. It's just enhancing what's already happening there.
This is so much fun. This is like kind of what it's all about for me. I really love the capturing and the recording and getting the sounds and the performance, everything on the front end, but hearing it all come together in the mixing context like this. Now, this is not like mix like done, but it's somewhere in the middle of the mixing process. And boy, I'm really happy that these samples are like adding to the song and not like getting in the way or changing it by any means, because this is, again, 3 dudes playing at the same time with no click track. There's a raw nature to it, and you don't want to make it too modern or too clean or whatever. I'd love to hear what you think down below. Also, I'd love to know like what's your workflow with how you use drum samples in your mixing process, because I've worked with a bunch of different engineers, and some of them have some very interesting ways about using them, and some of them do literally exactly what I do. I don't make these mixing samples videos that often. I've literally only made 2 ever since I made this drum sample pack. Against my own interest, by the way. I did make this for myself so I could use it for a bunch of different things, but I also made it packaged as a product for other people to buy, and I just literally never promoted or marketed or whatever. Part of what inspired this video is I'm on the back and we're trying to make some ads that we can run on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff to sell this sample pack. And I had that first thought of, gosh, it's been a couple years, are these still good? So I'm really happy that they are, and I hope you like them too. And I hope, if samples aside, I hope you got some value from this video. We just passed 16,000 subscribers on here, and I'm super grateful. Thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, if you want to check out the sample pack, there's a link to it down in the description. And lastly, head over to our video sponsor, sweetwater.com, because this month is software month. So if you are looking for some plugins for your mixing process, or trigger some drum sampling software, or VSTs, there's a lot of different options now. It's kind of like insane how many options are. In fact, I just got the Neural DSP for guitar for the purposes of writing and just kind of finding stuff to be inspired by. You know, I have sometimes fall into the old, I just do it this way and stick to that forever. And I gotta remember to you try new stuff. It's good to try new stuff and get inspired. So check out the affiliate links to Sweetwater down in the description to support the channel. Super grateful for you. Thank you to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.